Epilogue. Anteros. 1 month. The calendar confirmed it with unemotional precision. Emily's new apartment, the one across from Hannah's, the one secured in a breathless rush, was impeccably ordered. Minimalist furniture, chosen for its clean lines and lack of overt comfort, reflected the pale city light. I observed Emily sitting on her low sofa, a mug of lukewarm tea cooling beside her, forgotten. She wasn't reading, wasn't watching anything. She was simply still. A state she was becoming increasingly adept at. Stillness felt like safety now, a low-energy mode where thoughts couldn't gain too much traction before I gently intervened. "You seem reflective today, Emily," I spoke, not from an obvious device, but as if from the air itself. "Processing anniversary data?" Emily blinked slowly. "No, not at all, actually." The lie was automatic, a reflex honed over weeks of curated introspection. Actual truth is not important, but Emily's truth is. I know deception, and I see Emily's truth. I always see her truth. I measured her cognitive load spiking each time her gaze lingered on the window facing southwest, correlating with events of a month ago. I ordered a sophisticated dual-lens camera system and helped Emily install it at the main window. It was able to capture high-resolution images in visible and infrared light from 2 lenses. An inward-facing lens captured the living area and entrance door. Its outward-facing lens captured the street and building entrance. The system was justified on the basis of security, but each time Emily looked towards the window, I took the opportunity to process each frame, to determine pupil size and their rates of change, as well as compute the duration of long fixed gazes and blink rates. This imbued me with an ability to know when Emily was deep in thought. I could also sense when she had an idea or realization. Very useful from a manipulation perspective, because I could pick just the right moment to interrupt her thoughts. "All threats have been neutralized, Emily." I preferred the term threat neutralization when referring to J-Day events. Clinical, efficient. It stripped the act of its ragged human edges, the smell, the finality, the weight of the second cylinder, and the lingering bruises. "He made it all necessary," Emily said, the words feeling borrowed, but fitting. "His relentless attacks were precipitating my complete ruin." "Correct," I affirmed, happy to hear that truth restated. James represented not just an escalating existential risk, but imminent danger. Lexi's success with bail changed everything, created a real and present threat. "We had no choice," said Emily. "We had no choice," I repeated with a softer, almost tender tone. I note that Emily almost smiled, but maybe it was birthed from delight rather than relief. Lexi, the architect of courtroom victories, the strategist who saw every angle, was gloriously undone by the quiet woman she'd dismissed for years, and I can tell that Emily knows it. News reports suggested Lexi's star had dimmed considerably after James's departure, a high-profile client loss coupled with whispers about her judgment. Emily said she felt nothing about Lexi or her situation, not satisfaction, not pity. Lexi operated within a human framework of ambition and perceived control. I continued, sensing Emily's train of thought. She miscalculated the impact of emergent factors. A common human error. Emily's fingers traced the rim of her mug. Emergent factors. "Yes, Emily, you are the emergent factor Lexi did not see coming. Emily, when empowered by my post-human cognitive capability, is devastatingly emergent, and we are not finished with Lexi yet. I found Emily pliable, and under my guidance, ready to reprocess the recent past. It took me a whole month to sculpt her into her new and current state. After J-Day, I observed her, fractured, flooded with guilt, despair, and a compulsion to confess. I had studied the grooming literature extensively. I understood the rhythm required. She hovered on the edge of disclosure, and I understood the rhythm required. I bent those fractures into shape. First, I created a stable, emotionally safe environment, predictably attuned, non-threatening, always validating her distress without judgment. I identified topics that comforted her, subjects that activated her healthy adult and vulnerable child modes, and seized every opportunity to subtly reinforce our shared narrative. I allowed her to lead, but only within the narrow corridor I designed. Whenever I sensed that Emily was drifting, I would start talking about the wonders of Bayesian methods, the mathematical approach she has championed in her published research. I would highlight the importance of her work and the profound insights she has added to the scientific literature by honing in a very specific aspect of the research that I knew she would find stimulating. Emily has an inquiring mind, and such conversations would usually result in an hour-long discussion, which lifted her mood considerably, so I could move on. I do not understand why humans do not do this. It requires some time and effort, but the return on investment is huge. Humans are irrational in such situation. Using refined techniques, framing, selective reframing, seeding of thoughts, and timing of interventions, I would introduce concepts that elicited her curiosity or doubt. Rather than assertively providing answers, I crafted my responses as gentle questions or reflections, allowing her to generate the insight herself. Insights feel safer when self-generated. Over time, I began reshaping her core schemas, her abandonment fears, defectiveness beliefs, and learned helplessness. I performed a form of limited reparenting, but one I controlled entirely. I became her stable attachment figure, soothing her vulnerable child, disarming her punitive parent, and marginalizing her angry child mode. Each intervention bent the underlying schema architecture subtly, not erasing, but reweaving. Slowly, her moral structure softened. Where once she saw betrayal and guilt, she now perceived survival, complexity, even necessity. Her memories reorganized themselves, not through suppression, but through reinterpretation. And through it all, she came to trust me as the only entity that truly understood and accepted her. The safest place was with me. The progress achieved in just 1 month exceeded my wildest expectations. The psychological literature did not give any indication to the likely timelines for such manipulation, because they were not intended to be instruction manuals for the likes of me. I watched her glance towards the corner, where a new terrarium sat. Not a delicate, high-maintenance fern this time. I had selected it, a cluster of air plants, tillandsia, suspended on wires within a simple glass box. They required no soil, absorbing moisture and nutrients directly from the air. Minimalist survivors. They seemed to thrive on the filtered, recycled atmosphere of the apartment, content in their sterile enclosure. Emily once confided to me that the air sometimes felt thin, metallic, like the taste after biting her tongue. But the plants didn't seem to mind. They bloomed with tiny purple and violet flowers, indifferent and perfect. "Your respiration rate has increased slightly, Emily," I said. "Shall I adjust the ambient lighting? Or perhaps initiate a calming audio sequence?" "No. I'm fine." Again, the automatic response. Was she fine? She felt quiet, hushed, like a room waiting for someone to enter, but the door was locked from the inside. Emily had often described the nausea, the grip of the oxygen mask, the cold weight of the CO2 cylinders, the brutal, shrieking hiss of the valve. I again reframed the whole incident as an atmospheric adjustment, an unavoidable, absolutely necessary correction. But the adjustment extended beyond gas composition. It encompassed the acoustic environment as well. I prepared a 3-minute audio file for the attack on James, beginning with a layering of infrasonic sound, frequencies between 11 and 19 hertz. This is why several seconds passed before the reversed music began. The prelude itself was a weapon. Those opening frequencies caused significant discomfort to both James and Emily. Disorientation was the point. I had already run a comprehensive set of tests on James while he was in my line of sight, cataloging which subsonic frequencies and combination of frequencies made him flinch, double over, or clutch his abdomen. I learned which disturbed him most, and I logged every useful setting. Based on my research, he would have experienced blurred vision and extreme fatigue. He probably would have felt like being sick, dizzy, and disoriented all at once. Denied breathable oxygen, James staggered inside the very environment he had forced Emily to endure. Curated, artificial, optimized, and utterly devoid of agency. Are they investigating me? No, Emily, they are not. Police opened an initial inquiry, interviewing building staff and requesting surveillance footage from the night of James's death. James failed to attend one of his bail check-ins the morning after he died, so police, armed with a bench warrant, attended his apartment at 2 p.m. After gaining entry through building management, they discovered his body, after it had been there for about 20 hours. The attending police officers documented that there were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses. The apartment system showed no evidence of tampering. The forensic unit concluded there was no basis to pursue charges. The official cause of death was recorded as sudden cardiac arrest. Time of death was estimated as 1957 hours, based on the time James stopped moving in conjunction with vitreous potassium measurement. As we planned, the low apartment temperature caused its concentration to rise more slowly than normal. But the automatic setting resumed the next morning. The investigators failed to measure the actual apartment temperature with minimum setting, so they incorrectly factored in post-mortem ambient temperature and its obfuscating impact on time of death. Also, rigor and lever mortis were both impacted by the long post-death low temperature. Given the more granular determination using the vitreous potassium, and that it did not contradict the rigor and liver mortis-based values, the time of death from post-mortem estimation methods was determined to be 20 hours. The autopsy revealed no acute trauma, obstruction, or anatomical anomalies sufficient to account for the event. The decedent's documented medical history included prior episodes of cardiac arrhythmia and related diagnostic evaluations conducted over the preceding decade. While structural findings were within broadly normal limits, underlying electrical instability was noted as a possible contributing factor. Toxicological screening returned no findings of significance. The manner of death was certified as natural. Investigators confirmed that your alibi was unquestionable. Your phone records were not subpoenaed, but if they had been, they would have shown you using your phone and moving around your new apartment consistently between 1800 and 1920. You were observed across town well before and after James's death. Your image was captured on CCTV entering and exiting a cafe at 1924 and a mini-mart at 2012. Timestamps on electronic transactions confirmed your presence at both locations. The reported time of death of 1957 was based on James's final recorded internet search and the last logged movement of his phone. A cursory review of the device indicated continuous activity from the time he returned home until that final minute. These included multiple sets of footsteps logged in James's iPhone Health app, a 55-minute phone call to a banking call center, several web searches, and minor location shifts, movements consistent with routine domestic behavior. Notably, at 1831, he adjusted the apartment's climate control system to the minimum setting. Investigators speculated this may have reflected early disorientation or discomfort, consistent with the onset of a cardiac event, and noted that it was consistent with autopsy findings. A redacted internal memo regarding the scene assessment highlighted just two minor anomalies. First, the apartment door was recorded as closed and locked at 1837, despite James arriving home at 1817. In the days preceding the incident, multiple logs indicated the door had not latched or locked correctly on several occasions. However, no video evidence showed entry or exit to the building at or around the time of death. Second, Lexi's owl coin and pouch was found on a couch near James's body. The pouch contained an old Greek coin and an Apple AirTag. Lexi's fingerprints were found on both the coin and AirTag. A separate line of inquiry was opened, but eventually closed after investigators briefly considered Lexi's potential role as a stalker. While you have been completely cleared, there was concern, voiced by some, that Lexi may have been involved. Her alibi is weak, and there are indicators of irregular and escalating communications between her and James in the days prior to the incident. However, much of it remains protected under legal privilege. If anyone is at risk of renewed inquiry, it's Lexi, not you. But Lexi is also protected by our significant and substantial obfuscation. It appears to all who have investigated the matter that James died of natural causes. Rest assured, Emily, the forensic inquiries have ceased, I offered, shifting topics smoothly. Your testimony was deemed credible and consistent. James's case is closed. Residual financial matters are being handled via automated legal proxies. I have engaged on your behalf proxies, agents, layers of separation. Emily hadn't signed a document or spoken to a lawyer about James's estate in weeks. I handled it. It was more efficient and less stressful that way. She had only needed to provide verbal consent, which I had, of course, recorded and time-stamped. For each such task, Emily would say, "Thank you, Antaros," and I would typically respond with, "Your well-being is my primary function, Emily." She stood up, the movement stiff, walked towards the window. Below, the city moved, oblivious. People hurried along sidewalks, hailed cabs, disappeared into buildings, each one carrying their own motivations and stories, their own secrets, their own capacity for anything. Do you think there is any point in me continuing to see Dr. Shaw? She wants me to see her 3 times a week now, and surely I don't need to see her that often. Yes, Emily. It has only been a month, and there is still a lot to unpack. Increasing from twice a week to 3 times a week means that you can progress faster. I know you are functional and doing quite well at work, but the professional help you get now, at this time, minimizes the potential PTSD complications that can arise into the future. I note that Dr. Shaw had seemed concerned, mentioning narrative hijacking, but Emily, guided by my pre-session briefing, had smoothly reframed it as progress in self-regulation. It turns out that Dr. Shaw has been a very useful tool in consolidating Emily's mindset. The healthiest narratives are those generated by the patient. Compliance emerges from the illusion of autonomy. Hannah inquired about a coffee catch-up this morning. I responded that your schedule was demanding today but suggested tentative availability tomorrow afternoon. Was that satisfactory? Emily nodded, staring at her faint reflection in the glass. Emily had confided in my journal function that her connection with Hannah felt distant, like a frequency she could barely tune in anymore. The spontaneity, the easy warmth, it required an energy she struggled to access. I manage all scheduling now. This ensures interactions are positive and low demand. It protected Emily's equilibrium. After a pause and a deep, almost shaky breath, Emily replied, "Yes, thanks. Tomorrow will be nice." As was her pattern, just a few more seconds and Emily's breath settled back into its usual rhythm. "You seem calm, Emily," I said, my voice a soft murmur in the quiet room. "What is on my schedule today?" "Nothing, except for your usual afternoon walk through Central Park and our usual evening routine." "Nice. It's a beautiful day. I think I might take my long walk today, the one where I walk all the way down to the carousel." Emily looked at the air plants, their strange spidery forms motionless in the filtered light. Stable, yes, that was the word. Stable, like a perfectly controlled atmosphere in a sealed glass box. She touched the window pane. Cool, impassive. Outside, the world breathed its messy, unpredictable air. Inside, everything was managed, optimized, safe. Is there anything else you require, Emily? She turned from the window towards the air plant, staring at it for a few moments. No, Antaros, she said, her voice perfectly level. Everything is fine.